I find that is a great way to express yourself in that process of forgiveness is by placing it in words. Finding peace in everything that I do. And so I will write that in my journal. Peace. Peace in the way that I drink my water, peace in the way that I move through my yoga practice, peace in the way that I center myself, peace in the way that I work, peace in the way that I speak, peace in the way that I move through my day.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Spiritually Fly. I'm your host and your guide, Faith Hunter. By listening or watching this podcast, you are taking steps to rebuild your life, learn ways to courageously live out your dreams, or maybe you're here to unlock your potential. You know why you are here. So let's drop into the power of self-healing and step into a place of self-care. Along the way, I'll provide you with science-based yet spiritually grounded practices that will enhance your life and elevate your soul.
Greetings, beautiful people, and welcome to Spiritually Fly. I am Faith Hunter, your host, your guide, and this is episode 5, part 2. We are still talking about forgiveness. Let's get started. If you've listened to episode 4, you know that we talked about forgiveness and cheating, and I talked about ways of how it's so important for you to move through all of the stages of forgiveness. And also in that episode, I shared some journal prompts and a couple of moments of breathing and stillness so that maybe you were able to work through something or a situation or a cheating situation that you may have experienced. But for today's episode, I am actually going to share a couple of tips on how to move through forgiveness. And basically what I want to offer in this episode is kind of like a roadmap, meaning my personal roadmap on how I navigate forgiveness. It can be, as I shared in episode 4, a really challenging moment, but you have to do it when you're ready. So that actually is the first thing. You have to decide. You have to make a decision on forgiveness. Forgiveness is a choice, which I will talk about a little bit later in this episode. But when you are ready to forgive, no one can demand your forgiveness. No one can beg for your forgiveness. You have to make that personal decision to move through the emotional ebbs and flows and decide to forgive. So let's talk about a couple of tips. So the first tip is to take your time. Oh my goodness. You have to take your time and also lower your expectations. Not the expectations, because you're not doing this forgiveness thing for anyone else. The forgiveness is all about you. But when I say take your time, forgiveness, as I shared in episode 4, forgiveness can look different to different people, right? And one of the journal prompts was define what forgiveness means for you. So when I say take your time, maybe your forgiveness is lightweight. And that's okay, right? You don't have to have this big forgiveness extravaganza. It is really all about doing what is best for you. So once you figure out what forgiveness looks like for you, you decide to move into it. And then I want you to know that you can take your time. You don't have to rush through the process. So there is no expectation for you to move through the waves of forgiveness in a couple of days, in a month, or a year, or 5 years. Whatever amount of time that you need, do it. So when people are telling you and rushing you and said, oh my goodness, you should just go on and forget about that. You should go on and move through that. You should go on and forgive that person, their family. Or if you're in a relationship, your partner may be rushing you to forgive so that they can feel better. No, 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 no. It's not about that. You have to take your time. So the next thing is forgiveness is a choice, which I mentioned earlier. Forgiveness is not about the other person. Even if they ask you, please, please, please forgive me. I am so sorry, right? They're moving all through their guilty emotions or whatnot. It's not about them. The forgiveness that you have decided to engage in is about you. Forgiveness is a gift to yourself. So don't feel like you have to forgive them and forget, which is always like one of those things, forgive and forget. The forgiveness is about you. You are forgiving and allowing yourself to move through the emotional discomfort. You are finding that roadmap to self-worth and self-love, and the forgiveness path is your choice. And within that choice, and within the choices that I've made around forgiveness, it had nothing to do with the other person. I simply do not want to hold on to the anger, the frustration. I want to soften the triggers that I may be experiencing around infidelity or any other trauma, right? Or any other situation where you need to ask for forgiveness or you need to provide forgiveness. It's your choice. You move through it in a way that feels right for you. And know that forgiveness is about you so that you can move forward in your life, so that you can build that solid foundation that you need, so you can return to your center and feel that sense of love, worth, value, power, and strength based upon who you are, not based upon their need and desire to be forgiven. The next one, oh my goodness, it is okay to be mad. It is okay to yell, to scream, to go and like knock some things down, to tear some things up. It is okay to be mad when you have experienced, and I guess we don't keep going back to this thought around infidelity. So if you've experienced that, it is okay to be mad. Get mad as hell, tear some shit up, right? Just don't go to jail. Don't do anything like that. But, sometimes it's nice to walk out in the middle of the woods, right, and just yell. I have to say, one of the things that I've done before, when I lived in DC, I would go to my rooftop or get on my balcony or my terrace, and I would just scream out loud. Nobody knows where it's coming from, right? Or if you can't do that, like just grab a pillow and like scream into your pillow. The other thing that I feel is so important is that sometimes you need to get mad, even sometimes within the physical expression. And so another way that I do it is like I like to walk and jog. And so there have been moments where I have taken a long, nice jog outside on the treadmill, and I'm just like moving through that madness. I can't take it, right? The other thing is sometimes I need to dance it out. I need to stomp it out. I need to shake it out of my physical body. And that is another way that I move through my anger, my frustration. I move through and allow myself. And I want you to know that it is okay to get mad and really pissed off. It is a natural human emotion, and allow yourself the time to move through it. All right, so I'm going to keep talking about tips, but I do want to pause for a moment and just kind of read something from my book. As you guys know, I love reading from my book, Spiritually Fly, Wisdom, Meditations, and Yoga to Elevate Your Soul. So here's a quick read from my book. I'm going to first read, I'm looking at this poem. I'm reading from page 23 in my book. Looking back, feeling it, giving thanks, letting go, moving on. That's a little poem that is actually on page 23. And here's what I want to read. Forgiveness doesn't mean you will forget. It only means you have the power to release anger, resentment, and frustration associated with a traumatic situation. There's an interesting intersection between stress, psychological health, and forgiveness. When you forgive, you naturally feel less stressed when you recall a difficult situation. And overall, your symptoms of depression and anxiety are greatly reduced. Wow, forgiveness. Let's move on to the next tip. So, the next tip, put it in words. So, I talked about the previous tip, how to get mad. One other way that I find that is a great way to express yourself in that process of forgiveness is by placing it in words. So, I always like to write a letter to the person that needs forgiveness. That letter will often be fused, especially the first letter, definitely. The first letter will be infused with lots of disappointment, anger, frustration, right? That's one way I'm getting it out. I'm writing it out. But then at some point, not early on, but later on in my forgiveness journey, I will write a second letter. And that second letter will express my forgiveness and how I am feeling and how I'm choosing to move forward. Now, in between all of that, I'm also journaling and cataloging and just keeping track of my emotions on a daily basis. And sometimes it's not like a long journaled moment, right? Sometimes it's a simple quote, right, that I may come up with, or a word for the day where I'm just like, I'm going to commit to this word for the day. And I like write that word out. So if I am committing to the word of peace, right, it's been one of my words as of late, protecting my peace. So finding peace, peace in everything that I do. And so I will write that in my journal, peace. Peace in the way that I drink my water, peace in the way that I move through my yoga practice, peace in the way that I center myself, peace in the way that I work, peace in the way that I speak, peace in the way that I move through my day. And then when I write, that's like my lead word, that's my inspiration word. And again, follow it up with a couple of other sentences that will support me through the day. That last tip, all about using your words. Let's keep going. It is so important to set boundaries. Oh my goodness. It is so important to set boundaries. And you know what? Boundaries is definitely a huge buzzword within the wellness scene. But I think everyone's really taking note and finding importance of setting boundaries because it protects your peace, as I was sharing earlier. For me, it definitely protects my peace. But it also sets a tone. So if you decide that you want to continue being friends, being in a relationship, or if you know that you will have to see this person on a regular basis or from time to time, right? I think it is extremely important to set boundaries and sharing and fully communicating what those boundaries are. Now, the other thing I find is really important is that even if you are not planning on seeing this person, you still have to set some boundaries. Now, in the past, my boundary has been like, I'm blocking that person's number, or my boundary has been definitely initially communicating to them and saying, I do not want to be your friend. I am not interested in having any type of relationship with you. I will wish you well from a distance. I'm going to say that again. I will wish you well from a distance. That is the boundary that I will set. And so every situation is different. Every relationship is different, right? If it's family, friends, my lover, right? Or the lover at the time, I will set a boundary. And those boundaries are not, again, about them. Those boundaries are for my emotional, physical, sometimes, as well as spiritual health. Setting my boundaries, again, is about me, is about my path on forgiveness, is about the journey that I am taking, and it will ultimately maintain a sense of peace, balance, centeredness in my life. So set those boundaries. Set the boundaries that are going to be right for you. And if you're unsure about what those boundaries should be, give yourself some time. Even if you need to engage the person and if you're feeling uncomfortable in that process of engagement, that's probably a boundary that you need to set. All right, let's go on and move on to the next one. This next one is all about redirecting, or not even want to say redirecting, it's about changing the focus of what has happened. And I find that this can occur later on, like after you've kind of moved through some of the anger and you are feeling a little less triggered. And I find that this also helps in softening some of the triggers. So it's not about changing the story, it's just about how you're choosing later on down the line, how you are choosing to view and see the story. Now, sometimes this can actually occur early on, right? So, because we're just going to continue on this aspect of cheating and infidelity, because it just feels good to talk about this. Because I feel like it's happening everywhere around me, like it's literally everywhere. So yeah, so we're gonna sit on this. What can happen early on is that when you do find out, one way to view the story, it's almost like you're learning a lesson in how you are going to change what has happened, is that you are grateful that you found out when you did. Right? So, for example, if you are early on in a relationship or you're early on in your marriage, right? And you find out that your partner has cheated on you, or they've been cheating on you for months or a year or however long, and then you finally find out and it's still early on. Wow, that can be a beautiful blessing, because the lesson in that, the blessing and the lesson in that is that you now can see who the person is. Maybe what they did when they showed up with you is that they showed their representative or their very best self, or the person that they wanted you to see. But then when the truth was revealed, you're like, oh my goodness, do you mean this person has been lying to me all this time? And you can think to yourself, what else have they lied to you about? How have they deceived you in other ways? And you have no idea. One of the deceptions is they didn't reveal themselves. So that is a lesson. You can also view and change this in a way that you can look at yourself, right? And go, how can I show up much more authentically as myself in relationships? Not that the cheating or the infidelity or the situation was your issue, but you can learn from that person's experience, meaning their infidelity, cheating experience. You can see maybe a pattern that they have that maybe has been part of you, or you can identify a pattern and go, you know what? That's not how I want to be. That's not how I want to show up. I want to make sure that as I move through relationships, I am fully presenting, sharing, being vulnerable and authentic. I am showing up as myself. I am being open and honest. I am caring and loving. I am stepping into this relationship, not just my representative, but I am showing up in this relationship 100% as myself. All my flaws, letting my vulnerability pour out so that my next relationship hopefully that person will see who I am. They will present who and share and be comfortable with who they are. And I'm not going to go through this again, right? I refuse to. And even, the other thing I find is that in these situations, kind of related to the boundaries issue, oftentimes when we are in infidelity related, cheating related relationships, we aren't setting personal boundaries, and we have a tendency to ignore the red flags. And so that's another way that you can gain some wisdom from this experience instead of simply walking around and talking about the person negatively, or just kind of look at it from a broader perspective around, you know what? I may have missed some red flags, and not beat yourself up about it, and know that that's okay. All right, let's get to another tip. Forgiveness is definitely all about maintaining your overall health and well-being. Because when you are holding on to the anger, to the frustration, to this, and when you're in that state of sadness, that is negatively impacting your nervous system. It increases your level of stress. I know for myself, it's hard for me to sleep because now my nervous system is out of whack. I'm a little more anxious, so it can put you in this state of anxiety. If you suffer from even a mild level of depression, it may take you to a higher level. If you rarely ever experience depression, you may not even recognize that you are slightly depressed in those moments. So it is so, and the other thing, it can also affect your physical body, because you can be an emotional eater, emotional drinker. Like, it's because now you're stressed, and so you're leaning into those things that are going to provide you with comfort, and sometimes we will overindulge in those things. When you forgive, or when you start to at least move through and along a path of forgiveness, and you start to soften the triggers around the incident, your level of stress will start to reduce. You'll become a little less anxious, and your nervous system will start to settle. And you'll be able to really step into a place of personal healing, reconnect to who you are, and find your roots again. Because I always feel like when I have experienced infidelity, right, when someone has cheated on me, I feel like my roots are being pulled out, right? I feel like my foundation is being shaken or cracking. And so I need to give myself that time to rebuild. And that is almost like my nervous system talking to me and saying, Faith, let's pause, let's breathe, let's rest. Provide yourself with some comfort. All right, everybody. So here is our kind of practice for today. And this is definitely, which I'm ending with, this kind of nervous system and how important forgiveness is for your overall health and well-being. We're going to do a little breathing technique I find that is extremely simple, easy, and calming. And it is perfect, absolutely perfect for soothing your nervous system and holding yourself in this place of love. And it's just simple, long, deep breathing, like really big, gigantic, diaphragmatic breathing, just allowing like all the life force, the prana, to move into you, and then just releasing it and letting it go. And you can do this standing, you can do this seated, you can do this lying down in the bed, right? A lot of times when I wake up in the morning and I'm moving through, right, I may be still moving through that aspect of forgiveness, and I may wake up to like trigger, right? And you wake up to that trigger, you need, girl, stop, pause, Faith. Take some long, deep breaths before you roll those feet over the bed, before you step into your forgiveness or your gratitude kind of meditation and quotes and things that you're going to do. Long, deep breaths so that you are stepping, right? So that I am stepping, you are stepping into your day a little more grounded, a little more rooted into who you are. Let's go on and do some long, deep breathing. And close your eyes if you want, or you can leave your eyes open. If you're choosing to leave your eyes open, just gaze at one spot out in front of you, or you can kind of cast your eyes down, whatever feels best for you in this moment. And if you want, you can place one hand over your heart, right over your heart. Place that hand over your heart, or place the hand on your belly and just breathe in really deep in through your nose, nice and slow, maybe anywhere from 4 to 6 or 8 counts. You breathe in and exhale slowly. Breathing in. Exhale. I'm going to do this about 5 more times. So full breath in. Exhale. You're probably noticing your nervous system is calming down right here in this moment. A few more. Breathing in. Exhale. Breathe in. Let it out. Let's do 2 more. Deep breath in. Exhale. Last one. Breathing in. And release. Then go on and release your hands. Maybe they just hang alongside your body, or maybe you can rest your hands on your legs. And again, you can keep your eyes closed, or they can remain open for a few more seconds, maybe about a minute, and just observe, notice, and be a witness to what you're feeling in this moment. Nothing else really matters. All that matters is you. All that matters in this moment is you. Be with yourself. Feel yourself centered and grounded. Feel yourself held and nourished by your breath. Know that you are to allow the breath to wash over you, bathe over you, and calm your mind as well as your body, and provided your nervous system, your emotional body, some level of ease, provided your entire essence with some peace. All right, take another deep breath in. This time, hold the breath for a few seconds, and then exhale, empty out. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me for another episode of Spiritually Fly, and I will see you next time. Thanks and ciao.